Chapter 35. The healing still brought sleep and refuge, and it was with some consternation that Annie announced that she would be going on a trip off to the island that was her ancestral home, part of a long-term plan for which she had been saving for a very long time. There was no thought from Julia of her own loss. Instead, Katrina was sent to the shops to purchase a camera for Annie. Julia delighted at the opportunity to give, her only regret that she could not go to the mall and choose it herself. A solicitor, who'd given much of her time organising the very first fundraiser, volunteered to write up Julia's will and power of attorney, paperwork for the dying, an opportunity for Julia to put her worldly affairs in order, a chance she saw to leave her money for our trip, not that there was much of it, which added a plaintive touch to the occasion. I was to make sure that Jimmy had enough to catch a bus to wherever he might choose to go. She had always been so careless with her paperwork, and now she could set things straight. "Please do my tax," she implored us, as I mentally envisaged the state of her non-existing filing system. But it was a comfort to us as well to know that the solicitor's kindness brought her a sense of control over her own destiny. My brother Paul flew in for his visit and said goodbye, reluctant to leave, hoping that he could spend just a little more time with her. But there could only ever be one goodbye. "I can do it by myself," she decided one morning when I had completed a night shift and stayed on because of some hiccup, which meant that everyone else was unavailable. I wanted to stay for the day, but she was insistent that she had organised her visitors and would catch up on sleep until they arrived. Sometimes that mobile phone seemed like a curse. She was occasionally confused by now, but would make her own arrangements. The visitors didn't arrive in time, and she got herself out of bed, a toilet run, and broke her leg again. Auntie Jane came the next day, prompted by Auntie Katrina and myself. I had heard very little news from Julia. Information of the leg passed on second hand. Julia had arranged that we visit in the afternoon. Her room was full when I guided Jane to her door, and I mistook the pleading look on Julia's face for a moment of confusion. But it was more than that. Auntie Jane had not seen Julia since the week before Easter, and was not in a position to judge the situation. My sister and I were at the hospital early the next morning when the reason for Julia's distress became apparent. In an effort to control that new wave of pain, the palliative care team had administered a new drug, a drug that left her unable to communicate, the words unable to form properly in her mouth, isolated as she was in her childhood. "It's okay," I assured her. "I can understand you." However, the effect diminished because they removed the drug. "It's used as a street drug in Europe," she informed the team, who were very appalled at the idea. I have on my wall a clock that my sister Jane made me. It is much admired, pasted and painted, and Jane created one for Julia. A very odd gift for someone who is battling time. But Julia accepted it graciously, accustomed to her aunt, and Auntie Jane said her goodbyes. Annie's birthday was coming up, and Julia was determined to attend the lunch at the Mexican restaurant with Annie's family and the healers. The mobile running hot, arrangements to meet everyone there. Katrina dressed her twin and took her to her last social engagement. Their only other outing was in an ambulance to see the radiologist in a hope that he could offer some relief for her leg. But she knew it was hopeless before she even left the hospital, and the effort to attend the appointment left her agitated, insisting that only I should move her from the hospital trolley to her wheelchair. The ambulance driver redundant, she trusting in the expertise I had developed on our journey together. There were a few more scans on her leg, taken in the hospital, and she wanted me to attend. But the doctors knew that there was nothing else they could offer her, just the comfort of their attention. A brace was fitted to her leg in an effort to immobilise it, but it offered no relief. Jimmy approached the doctor with a suggestion that they should cut the nerves in her leg to eliminate the pain, but they explained there was no possibility of such a procedure. He had found a wonder drug on the internet, used by the US Army no less, and despite the enormous expense, and with no consultation with the rest of us, had placed an order. He had taken to visiting Julia's father, and apparently they had become good friends. He picked me up in his car one evening, and I was shocked at his disclosure that he was hoping that Julia would live for another 3 months. How could he live with her pain? "We will still have that white picket fence, babe," he promised. But she recognised her reality, concerned only that he would be homeless when she was no longer paying the rent. "I just want him to have a job so he can sit on my father's couch and say, 'I worked hard today,'" she said, not realising that she was imposing her values on someone who did not share them. Finally, he announced that he had a job, $100,000 a year for driving a forklift at a factory just up the road. He could ride a bike, she reasoned. A night job, so he could justify spending his days in bed. The construction of the lie so flimsy that only Julia could have believed it. Apparently he had made some progress with the solar business, and Julia had made her feelings clear on that matter. But we were torn by our love for her and the truth.